thank you, first of all, for doing this interview. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And you're the head of Firepower Records, which is, an up-and-coming label, and it's doing really well right now with Getter and Terra Vita blowing up, and obviously you being, headlining tonight on the bass stage. And I'm just sort of wondering, have you signed anyone recently, or is there a real up-and-comer that you think is going to blow up?
Yeah, I mean, Prototype as well, Prototype, he's killing it right now. He's selling out shows and he's been touring a lot, and we're all going on tour together this fall, so it should be good. On top of that, we just signed this kid. His name's Fox Stevenson, and he's total different, unique approach to kind of bass music. It's he's drum and bass, but he sings over his own shit, and it's just really cool. He's from the UK.
That is really cool.
And basically him and Djasta, he's also really dope. We just signed. Yeah, we got a bunch of cool new stuff coming from Konak as well, and it's cool. It's I feel like we built such a solid reputation and fan base around the label, and they're expecting quality, so that's what we're gonna give them, right? So.
Yeah, it's great. Everything that's come out within the last 6 months that I've looked up has just been amazing, so it's looking really good.
Yeah.
And I was just at a Nocturnal last weekend where you had a show, and I was backstage and heard a rumor that you might have a new stage setup coming.
It's basically a epic expansion to what I already have. So
the Vortex? Yeah,
it's called the Vortex Lumen, and it's basically we had these giant pillars and a shitload of really cool lights. So they all work in tandem with whatever visuals are happening in the middle. So it looks really, really cool. So I'm really excited to start using that.
And when will you start using it?
We start the tour October 2nd, and we got 35 dates, and then we take a break. I get back, and then I go straight to the UK, and I'm doing a tour of Flex Pavilion.
Nice.
And then I get back, back do the New Year's run, and then in January we start the second leg of the tour, and that's another 30 shows.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see it. Is it, when you say it's an expansion of it, is it bigger, more sort of the dimensions and the visual
Yeah,
show?
it's massive. It's what it should have been in the first place, and I'm stoked to actually, it's going to take up the entire stage, and it looks really fucking badass. We basically, I spent all last week, going in and programming stuff with the V Squared guys, and I think it looks better than it's ever looked, and it's going to be really exciting to see how people react to it.
That's awesome. And how much of that creative control do you have?
Well, it's the way I work with this VJ, his name is Jesse, he goes by Jesse Niket. And the way we basically set it up is, instead of having every single thing that I'm doing in my set completely dialed and mapped to a specific, very specifically for each song, instead I kind of break my set into moods. So, say for example we have 4 or 5 main different moods throughout the set. I'm okay, for this mood, when we go into the hip hop, let's do something really slow and pulsing and maybe acidy. When we go into the crazy drum and bass, bring on the blinders and get crazy with it, and just make kids lose their fucking mind kind of thing. And then the dubstep, just whatever, bring out some mechanical looking visuals that it's whatever. So it's cool. It's that way, we're constantly working together, and he gets to explore his creative side while he's VJing as well. So it's not just the same thing every night, and every single night I change my setup a little bit. So
that's really cool.
It makes it interesting.
Yeah. And last week you came out with a new LP, and it's sort of going back to your roots. It's really heavy. It's really, really dynamic. What sort of was your inspiration for sort of going back to that sort of style?
Well, part of the reason is because, for me, I feel I don't want to be quoted the wrong way in this, but I would basically say, I just wanted to, throw down and do, kind of give, that style, a kind of last hurrah, and, try to, I want to evolve from here. I think, I really want to start doing some crossover stuff, but not in a super, whack, fruity kind of way. I don't want to do, I don't want to start making super poppy music and try to do it that way.
Right.
I want to cross over in the underground and start working with more hip hop producers and hip hop MCs and rappers and stuff, and keep it dark and keep it dope and gangster, but still cross over into a different realm. And I think that's kind of the avenue I want to start taking.
Right, and you're sort of just talking about collaboration, sort of a dark route. You did a collaboration with Infected Mushroom, Jonathan Davies of Korn for Evolution. Was that, a real learning experience from learning from guys that have been in the game for so long? How was that experience?
Well, what's kind of funny about that specific collab is that it seems like it's coming from complete opposite ends of the spectrum on every single, no matter what way you look at it. It's like you got psytrance producers with a dubstep producer with metal singer, right? And
yes.
Putting the three together in theory shouldn't make sense. But to be brutally honest, it was probably one of the easiest collabs I've ever done.
Really?
Because we came from such different worlds, it was very easy for us to express our ideas and have them stick. Because it was like, okay, well, you're really good at this, so you do that. I'm good at this, I'll do that, and then you're amazing at singing, so I'll do that. And it's just like, and we actually recorded it on the tour bus when I was on tour with Korn, so.
Yeah, cool. I actually saw your show in Hollywood, their album premiere.
Yeah.
And Downlink and Excision were there, and you're all from Kelowna, which is really cool. And just, did you sort of meet them in Kelowna and realize that you're all producing the same kind of music, so we should sort of hang out?
I kind of knew, Excision had already kind of a presence, he'd already been DJing and stuff, and I was relatively new in the scene, and I didn't really know at first that there was a scene for dubstep. I was making hip-hop, but I never had MCs to finish it, and I find myself going back and looking at the really old shit that I've done, and I was making dubstep before I even knew what it was.
Right.
And then once I kind of found out, I was like, oh, Excision does this same kind of stuff. At the time I was on Dubstep Forum, and I met Downlink on Dubstep Forum.
Really?
And I found out he lived in Prince George in British Columbia.
Yeah.
So Excision and myself convinced him to move down to Kelowna. So he moved down. He moved in with Jeff for Excision, and I was literally walking distance from both of them. So that's kind of how we ended up, all linking up, and pretty crazy to see how it's gone. It's like, when I remember, when I first started really getting into it, I started talking to Jeff quite a bit more, and started talking to Jeff a little bit more, and he's like, I sent him Gecko. It was one of my first tracks, whatever, and sent him Gecko, and he was like, oh dude, you should come over. I was like, where do you live? He's like, this is address, and I basically was like, dude, I live literally 5 houses away from you. And I just walked to his house. I was like, what's up?
That's really cool. And the last question is sort of in a lot of your Facebook pictures, you have a hat with the Decepticon logo. Why Decepticons and not Autobots?
Well, I'm sure there's a million different reasons I could pick Decepticons over Autobots, but obviously evil robots are cooler than non-evil robots. Let's just put it at that.
I would go with the fact that jets are much cooler than cars, and if you go back to old cartoons, Starscream and everyone.
Exactly. It just makes sense. Soundwave.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's I forget.
He was, Decepticons.
Yeah, okay. Well,
way more bad.
That makes sense, yeah. Decepticons, so.
Alright, great man, that was awesome. I really appreciate it.